It's Jonathan here at Driving Academy, the best truck driving school in the country. We're here to help you launch your truck driving career with the skills, knowledge, and confidence to pass your CDL tests. And of course, hit the open road. Today's topic is one of the most common questions that we get from our students. Where do I take my CDL road test? We'll cover how training, location, and home state affects your testing location and pros and cons of the testing at the DMV versus a third-party testing site. And also, one question that most people never get to ask is, where does the truck actually come from on the test itself? Before we get into where to take your CDL road test, it's important to understand that the knowledge test to earn your CDL permit must be taken at your local DMV. The skills and road test, however, can be taken either at a DMV, like probably what you did when you learned how to drive a car for the very first time, or at a third-party testing facility. Let's break it down. First, let's clear up the big question. When you take your CDL road test, does it matter what state you actually are trained in, or even where you live in? There is some confusion on this because your CDL license will be issued by the state that you actually are living in. However, no matter what state you actually live in, you can actually take the CDL road test in another state, but with some limitations. If you're an out-of-state student, you can only take the test at a third-party testing site. Clearly, if you're out of state. So let's work out an example. If you live in New Jersey with a New Jersey permit, a car license, and you want to take the test outside of the state of New Jersey, you're going to have to take it at an actual third-party testing facility. Taking it at a DMV in a different state does not work at all. So let's take Driving Academy as an example. We have a bunch of truck driving schools all over the country, but we do have a lot in actually New Jersey. So a lot of our students actually don't take the test in New Jersey itself. They actually go across the border to Pennsylvania at our own third-party testing site. Now, why do we do it? A lot of the DMVs in New Jersey actually are known to have a very long schedule in order to actually take the actual CDL test, which makes our students' lives a lot more difficult. When we have our own third-party testing site, for instance in Pennsylvania, we're able to control the entire flow of when you're coming in to be a student and when you actually get tested as well. Also, we have the added benefit of if we know exactly what you're going to be tested on because we're a certified third-party examiner, don't you think we know exactly how to train you? So we make the smooth process from getting you started to getting yourself that CDL license. Now you might be asking yourself, how in the world can an actual third-party company and the DMV be on the same level when it comes to actually giving the test? Well, this is because the commercial driver license world, anything that has to do with the CDL, is controlled and regulated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA. And the first word in that is actually federal, right? Which means the federal government is what's actually controlling this, and all the states have to report to them. Which means that all the training, all the testing, all the licensing standards are actually the same across all the different states. So when you actually take your test in New Jersey, Florida, Texas, or California, or even Hawaii, the testing process must be exactly the same, and the federal requirements must be met all across the different states itself. That means that if you pass your CDL license in one state, it's valid in all 49 other states. But like I said in the beginning, when you actually go get your CDL permit, that's the only exception. You have to take that at the DMV that you actually currently do live in, right? But remember, what actually winds up happening is this is just for the CDL road test. Everything that has to do with the permit or the knowledge test, that has to be done at the local DMV level at your own state itself. Because in order for you to get your permit, you have to prove your address. Kind of like getting your actual license. You have to show 6 points of ID. And if you don't have an address in that state, they're not going to give you a permit in that state. The next question we actually get is hey, is it easier to pass a test in one state versus another state? Well, here's the truth. The actual CDL road test is federally regulated, which means that the core requirements are the same no matter where you take it. Every state should be acting in the same exact way. Some places may have a reputation of being easier based on how they run their tests. Some DMVs are stricter, some have limited availability, some have examiners who are more by the book all the time, while others are more relaxed. But from one state to another, there really isn't a difference, right? The main exception is when it comes to the actual parking maneuvers. So back in 2023, there was a rule that came out where states had the ability to change the parking maneuvers that they're actually going through. Some states are still in a transition period, and that's why you'll actually get difference. So in certain states, in most states around the country, you'll actually be doing 4 different parking maneuvers. In some states, you're still on the old system, which is up to 6 different parking maneuvers. What are those parking maneuvers? We'd have the forward stop, the straight line back, the forward offset, the reverse offset, the parallel parking, and the alley docking itself, right? In New Jersey, for an example, you'll need to execute forward stop, straight line back, forward offset, and reverse offset. And that is in most of the states because this is the newest version of the test. There are certain states out there that will require you to do all 6, one of them being actually California, right? So and then in that case, you're going to have to get a little bit better on your actual skills when it comes to driving your truck on the road. Now, one of the cool things about being a student here at Driving Academy is we have locations nationwide, which means no matter what part of the country that you're in, we can actually have a curriculum that will fulfill your local state's need to make sure that you wind up getting your CDL license in your state. But on the off chance, if you don't decide to come to the best CDL school in the entire country, if you go to your local driving school in whatever state that you're in, they should be able to demonstrate exactly what you need to do for your road test in the state that you're going to be taking the test. That being said, choosing the right location for your CDL road test matters, especially when deciding between a DMV and a third-party testing site. So what's the actual difference? Let's start off with the DMV. DMV testing is a state-run and strictly standardized. Every examiner follows a state handbook, and the process can be a little more formal and rigid. Here are the advantages of testing at a DMV. Your local DMV may be closer to where you live. It's the official source where there's no questions about validity, right? So if you have any bad players out there, you know that once you take the test at DMV, you're good to go. Some states offer lower testing fees at the DMV compared to a third-party testing site, so it can be cheaper for you. Third-party testing sites aren't allowed in some states, so in certain states, like for instance New Jersey, you have no option but to go to a DMV. But the disadvantages are appointments can be hard to get, especially in busy locations. You often need to wait weeks before you can schedule your actual test or even take a retest, right, when you're thinking about it when you failed for the first time. At the DMV, they don't have trucks or buses that will let you get tested on, which means you have to bring your own vehicle to actually take the test. That means you'll need access to the CDL vehicle that meets the requirements for the license class that you'll be testing for, along with proper insurance, documentation, plus you'll need somebody to drive there with an actual CDL license, and you have to make sure that this truck is in pristine condition, because if it's not, they can actually fail you and you just wasted all this money and all this time not to even test. The other disadvantage is you have a big, high red tape environment. What does that mean? Very high pressure, less forgiving. It's kind of all to the book. You get it all, you get it or nothing. They are not really in the business of actually helping people get a CDL license, so they don't really know what a student actually goes through in order to actually get that done. The other thing that you should know is not every single DMV in your state is going to be able to do CDL road tests, right? So certain CDL testing has to have a certain requirement or a footprint. So depending on how that DMV was built, it might just be an office with some kind of car training or car testing, but does not necessarily mean you're going to actually be able to do the DMV CDL road test there, which means you might have to travel to a different DMV that is further away, right? So all that being said, let's talk about what third-party testing pros and cons look like. So the first thing you have to understand is what are third-party testers. Third-party testers are state-authorized private companies or schools that can actually give the CDL road test. They follow the same test format and scoring system, but often offer more flexibility. Here are some of the advantages of actually going to a third-party testing site. One of the biggest things because of the flexibility is that you get a faster scheduling and shorter wait times when it comes to the third-party testing site itself, right? Often you're allowed to test in the same truck you're actually trained in, especially if the truck driving school that you went to is also a third-party testing site, so you're very familiar with that, right? And you're having much more friendlier examiners. You're not dealing with state employees. You're dealing with people who understand where you're coming from and you're nervous, and their job is to kind of calm you down a little bit before the test and set you up for success. There are certain schools out there that are also third-party testers, which means you can train and test exactly in the same exact location. There are fewer disadvantages to consider. Some might be, for instance, the cost, right? So it's going to cost you a lot more because it's a private company. But because it is a private company, they do care about their customer reviews. I don't know about you, but last time I was at our DMV, being a state employees, they do not care about how well they're doing their customer service facilities, when you're dealing with a for-profit or a private market, it's much easier to get better customer service, right? The other thing that you have to understand is not all states offer third-party testing. One of those examples is the state of New Jersey. You'll need to make sure that the site is properly licensed and reporting to the state. So the other thing you do have to understand about third-party testing sites is most of them are actually owned by CDL schools, right? So if you're going to a school that does not give you the CDL road test itself, but they are going to take you to a third-party testing site, in many cases, you're just going to go to a separate school to actually get that third-party testing site done, which means now you're going to probably pay extra because you're going to have to pay the actual training cost and also the testing fee itself. For instance, here at Driving Academy, if you just come to our school by itself, we'll have all those included in the package already built in for you. So you don't have to worry about all those extra costs. The cool thing about Driving Academy specifically is we have what we call guaranteed training courses, which means we'll give you over 100 hours of training with unlimited tries at the road test, which means if you take the test once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, you don't have to pay anything extra and you can keep moving forward. If you were to try to do the same thing with another school that we actually test for, at that point you're going to be paying for every single test that you do take, which can be a big disadvantage for you. All right, so another question that some people have is, hey, can I take the road test at any DMV? The answer is not always. Some DMVs only handle the written test, some DMVs only handle car tests, some DMVs actually can do CDL testing itself, right? But the one thing you do have to understand is you have to book weeks in advance and you have to make sure that you bring in the proper vehicle there. If you don't have that, you're going to have a big issue. So the best thing to do is actually go to your local DMV website, try to schedule a CDL road test. Make sure you say CDL test, not just a road test, and then you're actually going to be able to see how far out in advance people are actually scheduling. So to wrap it up, here are some big takeaways. You don't need to take the CDL road test in the same state you're planning to get licensed in. How does that actually work? So for instance, say you're in the state of New Jersey, California, Texas, you decide to be a student here at Driving Academy. You come in here to any of our facilities, we can train you. If we take you to our third-party testing site, you'll pass the CDL road test. We'll upload that information to the national database. Then you can go back to your home state, ask your local DMV to say, hey, I just passed my test at a third-party testing site in a different state. Can you look me up? They'll be able to look that up in the system and they'll be able to print you out your actual local CDL license from your very home state, so you don't have to worry about that. The other thing to really understand is that if you want to take the test at a DMV, you are going to have to make sure that you have your own truck when you do bring it. If you're going to a school, make sure that they provide that for you. If you don't want to worry about any of that stuff, you can just come to the best CDL school in the country, which is, of course, Driving Academy. The other thing you have to understand is if you take the test at the DMV, it can be a slower process when it comes to scheduling. Customer service is usually not going to be that great because you're dealing with state employees, so it can be a little bit more stressful for you. And the last thing you want on your actual CDL road test day is actually more stress. And the main thing to understand about third-party testing sites is that the DMVs were kind of getting overwhelmed, and that's why many states are now moving to the third-party testing model to kind of alleviate the actual DMVs itself, which means you're going to get faster speeds, more comfort, and very relaxed environments to kind of reduce the stress. But it does come at an extra cost because many DMVs might cost you nothing or might have a small fee because they're a state. But again, you're going to have to pay somebody to actually bring the truck there. So either way, you're going to have to pay. The best option depends on your timeline, budget, and comfort level, right? So if you're a person who has balls of steel, never gets stressed out, never gets nervous, then go ahead, do it at a DMV. If you're like most people on this planet and you don't like taking tests and you kind of get nervous, going to a good third-party testing site who's able to kind of ease you into things, make sure that you're comfortable, give you the ability to kind of review the truck before you actually go to take the test, already has all this stuff kind of built in, makes things a lot easier for you. If you want help figuring out your testing options, or you're looking for a school that trains and tests in-house, Driving Academy has you covered. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you could do me a favor, share this with somebody who's thinking about getting themselves a CDL license so we can actually get to our mission of helping 1 million people just like you get themselves on the road to freedom. That's what we wake up every single day to do. So I'll see you on the next video, and again, hit that like button, make a comment, let's hear from you, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to get your CDL license, you know where to go. Check out our website, cdldrivingacademy.com, right over there. And if you like this video, you'll definitely like this video right over here. So make sure you check that out. But before anything else, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you soon.